Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. If you joined us from the last section, we were just doing Q&A, and let's maybe do a little bit of that. I have a little practice that I'd like to do, but I'm willing to spend a little bit of time and cut that short and do a little Q&A as far as the angel, spiritual practice, deity, whatever is in that realm. Let's open it up to anything goes in that kind of circle. So go ahead and fire away. You can unmute yourself or type in.
Go ahead, Danelle.
Hey,
Hey,
Dana.
Greg, how's it
Hey.
going?
Hey, good.
I had a question about the Kundalini process. You've done it in different classes. The one where you start here and then go,
I
down
can't see, like, just tell me where you're, I can't, I'm
yeah,
looking at
top of
camera.
the crown, and then it goes down to the tailbone, then you stop, and then it goes tailbone all the way back up to the crown again.
Okay,
And then you go the opposite way. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
yep.
Is it possible to do them like separately, or is it better to do them all together?
Do it together. Like,
Do it
because when you
together,
go
okay.
down, when you go down the front and then up the back, it's an energizing cycle. And when you go down the back and then up the front, it's a cleansing cycle. And so they kind of balance each other. If you only do like a bunch of energizing, it can be too like congesting and overstimulating to the body. And if you just do the opposite, it could be too depleting to the body. And so it's a way to kind of balance it out. So you always want to end with the cycle like that's in the notes, like how you go down the front and up the back. That's the energizing cycle, and that's the cycle that you want to end on. So it's what you start with, and then it's what you end with.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Like there's an easier version of it that, like, if you just want to kind of fire through it, is Lydia on? She might post this. The Lord's Prayer pattern, where you go crown, forehead, ajna, throat, heart, solar, navel, spleen, Mingmen, sex, basic, and then you pause for a minute and then go basic, spleen, Mingmen, crown. It's a different form of doing the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, like, if you're just trying to like sit and, because the thing is it can make you a little spacey. You can, you can take off a little bit. And the thing with either version of that you're doing, where you're doing the circulations, or you're doing the last one that I just talked about, either one, the thing that you're doing is you're moving energy through the body. Like, you're circulating energy through the body. So that is actually tied to the function of the ajna, the center between the eyebrows. And so you're moving energy, you're circulating energy, but you're also cultivating a form of focus, right? You're cultivating a form of like one-pointedness or focus. And so when you're doing it, at first you might do it kind of fast, but the slower you go, the stronger it is. And the more that you'll notice, like if you start to slow it down, you'll go, okay, say you're doing the last version where you go crown, forehead, ajna, throat, heart, and then you get to the heart of the solar plexus and you start spacing out. It happens, it's because you got so much energy running through. If you space out, try to bring it back and go right back to where you left off, and then finish the circulation. You're really wanting to balance out the energy centers, but you're wanting to maintain that focus. And a lot of times where the energy gets really strong is where you kind of take off. And so wherever you took off, you want to be able to bring your attention back to that and then be able to sit with it for a minute. And so the goal is sometimes not to do more repetitions, but to do the circulation, but much, much slower. Like when you're moving it, the energy that you're moving and you go kind of fast, it's like moving like smoke, like, or steam. When you go really slow, it's like you're moving molasses. It's a much deeper activation of Kundalini, and it takes a lot more attention and focus. And so when we're doing it, I don't really talk about that component of it too much, but as you really start doing that practice, that's the thing that you're really trying to cultivate, is just going slower and slower and slower. And so Yeah, yeah.
Sounds great. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Megan, then Channing.
Hey, Megan.
Hey, I've always wanted to ask you, I have this this oils holder with at least 12 or 15 angel oils, and I sort of don't know what to do with them. Like, for example, when you inhale an angel oil, is that going to automatically attract the angel to you, or is it just going to give you a healing similar to what that angel does?
A little bit of both. I mean, the way to like you could do a couple of different versions of it. Like just inhaling it would be strong. Inhaling it into the heart would be a bit stronger and kind of cultivates a little bit more of a devotional practice. But like the stronger form of it would be to go to the forehead, like inhale it with your awareness on the forehead. And then the even deeper version of it would be to do the materialization breath and or just putting your awareness on the pineal gland or the blue pearl. And so that's when it gets like really super strong. And so if you're able to go right to the blue pearl and inhale, you could do it in a couple of minutes. But the kind of the quick way to do that without having to really focus to find the blue pearl is to do the materialization breath. We call it the materialization breath because it's in the materialization classes, but part of what that does is it stimulates the blue pearl and it starts bringing light to wherever you're directing it. So like, you're holding a goal in your heart and then you do that, it starts to bring light into that particular situation. And so doing that with angels or deities or something like that helps to accelerate the connection with that deity or angel to a much higher degree. Like there's that picture in the Sistine Chapel where there's a big blue ball, which is symbolizing the blue pearl, and there's a man sitting on top of it, and then on each side of it is the four archangels of the directions. And so the teaching in that is that when you're trying to get the attention of the angels, you do it with your attention on the blue pearl. And so at first, you're unwinding all these things and you're activating the heart, so you're able to maintain that longer. But the goal is to be able to put your attention on the blue pearl and either invoke the angel by toning or visualizing an image of a sigil, or by using the oil blend, which would be very similar to the sigil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Channing.
Hey, Miss Jen.
Hi, Greg. Hi, Sam.
Hey, it's
Sam-
Seattle time. Two Seattle people in a row.
I know. When are you coming back?
I was just looking at that over the weekend. We're trying to work out a time to come here sometime soon.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you for that. You mentioned four directions. I have a question about the four directions. So looking ahead to not this weekend, but next weekend to the class, I took a look at the kit and very, very exciting. I have a question.
Yeah, I thought you would be super excited because there's a whole bunch of planetary oils that haven't been out.
Yes, and I remember that you said some time ago that the planets blends are really connected to angels. So I figured I could fit this question in. What's the difference between the alchemical planets versus the regular planet kit?
Yeah, so there's the regular planet oils, then there's the premium planet oils, right? And then there's the alchemical versions, right? And so the regular planet oils are a bit more like kind of physical. It's still affecting, because anytime you work with the planets, what you're really doing is you're doing things with the emotional body. And so the regular physical oils or they're just the regular planet oils are affecting your physiology, but like kind of lower emotions. Then the premium oils are hitting it more in the higher emotions. And then the alchemical oils are actually transmuting the emotions and moving the energy of the emotions up towards the crown. And so if you if you look at, there's this famous old, let me see if I have it in my photos. Let me see, because it will be easier to say this if I have it.
I mean, I'm just,
Yeah,
I'm
there you go.
looking
I
at,
have
I'm looking
it.
at the newsletter and it's got like the directions, and then you have the elements, and you have the alchemical, all the alchemical planets, and then you have the 4 angels of the 4 directions.
It's gonna be intense
I think I'm just gonna die right now.
weekend. So I'm gonna send this to Samantha and she's gonna post it. And then we can look at this as we're, hold on. Let me just do it this way. Well, it's gonna let me, darn it. See if that shows up as an image. If not, we'll do it old school. Okay, okay. Can you see it like this?
Oh, not at all. Let me see what I can do, guys.
For some reason, it's not letting me share this image, so.
Yeah, we're getting it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you see at the top of his head,
There's a cloud.
you see there's like 7 stars. You see like right,
Oh, yes, around his helmet. Yeah.
so that is actually tied to, and then you see he's wearing black, red, yellow, white.
Those are all the colors corresponding to the.
Those are tied to an alchemical practice. And so this whole thing, and then there's a whole thing with the sword, and then the thing with the little knee guards, and each one of this is a piece to a practice. And so the 7 stars is about transmuting the emotional energies, and which are from the heart to the sex chakra, right? And so like when you do forms of meditation, you activate the heart, and then as you activate the heart, eventually moves to the crown, right? If you do that enough times, eventually like the crown will activate, but then it kind of shrinks back down. But if the heart's substantially activated, the crown will get a little bit bigger every time, right? But here, what you're doing is you could say transmuting or transforming the emotional body to move the emotions or the emotional energies from those centers, from the heart to the sex chakra, and you're moving it up to where it actually starts to activate the crown through the stimulation of the blue pearl, right? And so again, it makes it much easier to invoke angels. It makes it much easier to break mental patterns. It brings light into the situation, stimulates a deeper connection to the higher soul. There's a whole bunch of reasons why to do it. But one of the aspects is you're starting to move this up, and eventually what happens is they'll say, if it's done enough and properly, over a period of time, that the Holy Spirit will descend, right? Then over a period of time, they'll say the Holy Spirit has descended and it stayed, right? So this is tied to how much and how well you can activate the blue pearl, and then eventually a little bit higher, right? And so this is symbolized in this practice of those 7 energies, which are tied to, like, basically the 7 planets are tied to these 7 principles. And it's also tied to the star on Astara is a 7-pointed star with a lotus in the middle, right? It's actually tied to a very similar like teaching. And so each one of the stars is tied to a principle and to an alchemical practice that basically helps a person to accelerate their spiritual growth, but also to be able to like transform matter in the world. And that doesn't mean like walking over to this bell and like, now I'm going to turn it into gold or something like that. But it's being able to absorb the essence and the teachings from that image brings. And if something is supercharged with spiritual energy, like this bell's like 300 years old, used by lamas over the years, like it would impact you to a much greater degree and then accelerate your spiritual growth, right? And so the practice is that you move the emotional energy up. You also are the 4 directions, the black, red, yellow, and white are tied to the body itself, like the lower centers from the heart down. It's tied to those centers, right? Because if you think of the 7 chakra system, the throat, the center between the eyebrows, the crown are all associated with the higher soul, the throat being the void. So the heart down is considered like the lower realm or the lower, form, the incarnated soul. So you're wanting to move the energy from those 4 aspects up to the crown that then is starting to cultivate those other 3 aspects. And so in the Native American tradition, the indigenous practices, they have the circle with the balanced cross where it's black, red, yellow, white. That is not only those 4 colors symbolizing those 4 chakras, but it's also that circle with the balanced cross in it is a symbol for earth, right? So it is the aspects or components that are of the earth. The crown, the forehead, the ajna are all associated with the higher soul, the throat being the void between the incarnated soul and the higher soul. So you're moving the energy of the incarnated soul or the lower realm up into the crown eventually, which is actually you're bringing together the 4 directions, which you call in, when you do ceremony or when you do healing or whatever practice you're doing, you call in the 4 directions. But in the inner practices, the 4 directions are tied to your brain. Like those 4 colors become the 4 directions in your brain, and it means the ability to materialize or to manipulate the forms. So the form can be like to affect healing in the body, to change processes in the body, but also forms are also your thought processes, like your thoughts, your repetitive thoughts, your viewpoints, your opinions are all considered a type of form, as well as other people's. And so your ability to bring in that kind of light and have it emanate actually transforms your mind, but it also starts to transform the minds of the people around you. So in the Buddhist tradition, they don't go into the detail like this. It is more symbolized by the Buddha with the blue ball right here. Like as his blue pearl developed, the Buddha was not just giving teachings, but being in the vicinity of the Buddha and his activated blue pearl changed the minds of the people around them without him even talking. It would transform the person and their minds would start working differently. The same would go for Christ. The same would go for Rama. The same would go for Krishna. And if you've ever been around a spiritual teacher, your mind and your brain starts working as you get into closer proximity to them, right? And so that is a stimulation, but then they go away, like they fly away, they go do this, do that, right? And then the proximity goes away, and so the energy goes down. But at some point, the person becomes devotional enough or has started to transmute these aspects so that the blue pearl activates regardless of the proximity from the teacher, right? So just having that connection, the blue pearl will activate regardless if they're even in a body or not, right? And so the idea is you're transmuting the lower the lower energies, the lower centers, you could say you're transmuting the lower tendencies, but on an even deeper level, you're transmuting the tendencies within the form, the tendencies within the body, right? And as you transform those, you stimulate your higher faculties, but you're literally diminishing the tendencies that cause you suffering, because you're transmuting the reactive nature of your body, your emotions, your mind, the automatic behaviors, the automatic thinking, all the things that we've talked about over the year or two. You're transmuting those, and in that is the transmutation of karma. Because like most things that we do to ourselves that we call karma is not really karma that we like incarnate with. It's just the karma of bad choices, of entanglements, of repetitive thinking, of, it's cause and effect, but it's more of like things we've just done to ourselves, right? And so as you end up moving this up, you're diminishing those tendencies that set up situations that cause you pain or cause entanglements. But even deeper is the energy moves up, it moves up to the crown, it moves up to the blue pearl. It starts to change your nervous system. Like they talk about in Kundalini practices, energy comes down, the Kundalini is what goes up. It is actually how you spiritually grow and develop is not what comes down, it's actually what goes back up, right? And so part of what you're doing is the nervous system changes, and you could say the nervous system, it gets like more relaxed, like less agitated, more like it gets upgraded, right? So it can handle greater levels of spiritual energy. But what happens at a certain point is that the crown, as it activates, it's not just moving energy down, it's moving energy up. And one of the best ways to break karmic patterns is to learn your lesson, right? Like learn your lessons, whatever that is, whatever that means, learn your lessons, right? And so part of learning your lessons, that pattern that we do where we go soles of the feet, the low back area, the Ming Men, the back heart, the crown, and then release, right? You're kind of establishing a pattern within the body so that you keep moving energy up, right? You're moving it from the lower centers. When you get to the Ming Men's taking lower grosser energies and starting to shoot it up. It shoots it up to the back heart. The back heart takes it and transmutes it emotionally, right? And then the crown takes it and transmutes it mentally. And then a little bit of it releases up, right? This is a much stronger version of this. And when that energy that moves up, it's moving up through the top of your head, and 12 inches directly above your head is where the incarnated soul is anchored, right? There's a point of light above your head that as you spiritually grow and evolve, that energy that moves up goes out through the top of your head and eventually goes up and starts to hit the 12th chakra, or it's not a chakra, it's like a point, right? As you do this practice, this would be the same practice that is establishing the pattern for forgiveness, right? It's the same pattern for forgiveness. Ming Men, back heart, crown, release, right? So even when somebody hurts you or there's something causing you pain, Ming Men, back heart, crown, release. So the reason why this is so important is as that energy moves up and it goes up to the crown, and then it starts to get transmuted mentally, and that energy starts to go out to the top of the head. It goes out to the top of the head and starts to hit the point of light 12 inches above your head. As it does that, it registers as lesson learned.
Okay.
So it literally is the mechanics for breaking karmic cycles within the life.
You don't have to know what your karmic
Nope.
issues are.
Most times, honestly, what most people call karma is not accurate.
Yeah.
Like there's always a certain degree of karma that you're paying off in a life. You know, it's not all your karma, it's a small amount, right? Most of the stuff that we struggle with is like, you could call it the karma of our entanglements and bad decisions and our reactions. That's getting transmuted as well, right? It's breaking those patterns, but a lot of times, think of it like this. Like most times it's like one or two things that you're kind of working out, right? And so you can think of it like this. Like this was the way Annie Besant described it many years ago, about 100 years ago. She said, okay, you're in the kitchen and you're chopping vegetables, right? You're chopping vegetables, and boom, you slice your finger. So immediately you see the cut and you see the blood. Then the next day it's not bleeding anymore, but you see the cut. Then about a week goes by and the cut is partially closed and not bleeding, and a lot of the swelling and redness, it's all gone, but you can still see there's a wound. Then a couple of weeks later, it's all closed up, but there's still a little bit of a scar. Then a year goes by, you don't really think about it, but you look down and you see, oh, there used to be a cut there. I can see there's the scar of the wound. 10 years goes by, you don't even really remember the incident. And when you look down at your finger, you don't really even think of the incident where you cut your finger. You know, you look at it, you don't even really see the cut anymore, or it's very faint. And so you really have forgotten the incident. But every time you're in the kitchen and you pick up the knife, you're a little bit extra careful. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's your karmic pattern. Like you might not know what it is, you might not have had any experience, but there's just certain areas in your life where you're like, I need to be a little bit more careful here. Like your attention, like you'll be going and oh, gotta be careful. Gotta be careful. You know, like for me, I laugh, but it's not that funny. If you listen to me talk, I don't like politics. I don't like politics. I don't like politics. I don't try to get involved in politics. I don't like talking about politics. But when I read the news, I pay a little bit more attention than normal. And it's not even about sides. I'm just watching patterns. And when I've had discussions with people who are very involved in politics or something, they'll go, how do you know all that? And I was like, that makes sense, you know, but I'm extra careful. I make extra careful to stay away from that situation. It means I screwed up really bad at some point in my past. I guarantee you. And most of the difficulties in my life are little situations where it's something to do with politics in the situation. Every time. Every time.
Wow.
You know, so I have to be a little bit careful there. So when those things happen, they can be upsetting, they can be painful. You know, you sit and think like, oh, how can this person do this? Or how can this group do this or whatever? You know, I'll whine or pout or whatever. And then like within a day or two, I was like, okay, time to put my awareness on my heart, hold it there, get the energy to move up to the crown, get that energy up to that 12th chakra, because I want to be sure, lesson learned. I don't want to do this anymore, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that that situation goes away. I usually become less reactive about it. But, you know, there's been times where, you know, because of politics and situation, on one level, you could say I was harmed quite bad, but it's hard to say you're harmed when you walk away from the situation and you're doing significantly better almost immediately. It's because like I offered it up as lesson learned.
Okay, Greg, when in that example, and you put the situation in your heart and you, you know, bring it up, what are you using, an angel oil or a planet oil?
Not well, honestly, the key to that is the thing that we were talking about, how you do the Kundalini and you upgrade the nervous system. The key is relaxing the nervous system. You know, the oils that, oils, incenses, smokes, you know, in the old days when they would smudge, they would call them smokes. Like, you know, they would, you know, smoke you, like not smoke, like, you know, smudge you. They do different things, but there are some that are meant to help move the energy up, relax the nervous system so that things can transmute. And like when I was traveling with the medicine man, we were in a situation where, you know, he was Lakota, but we were with medicine men from Hawaii, and we were with medicine men from New Zealand. And the New Zealand guys were doing this thing they called an awa ceremony. And it basically translates into doorway to God. And basically they would use fresh kava, and you take in large amounts of kava. And it basically is a central nervous system sedative. And if you were to go through and scan what happens with that, like your mind gets really clear, but you're having to calm your nervous system down so much that it makes it hard for your body to move. But if you look at what happens is the energy just moves up and it goes off the crown and it's shooting up to the point of light above your head. So oils like Melissa, clary sage, neroli, petitgrain, kava, valerian, spikenard. Here's a couple others. I'm not remembering them all right now. But all of those have an impact on the central nervous system that allows the energy to move up and then be released into that point. So when we go through in that class, we're not going to be using single oils. We're going to be using blends directed at different parts of the body, so that the goal is for you to train your physiology, your mental body, so that you don't even have to use like a ceremony like that awa ceremony, that you just sit still and it just starts automatically moving up. That's the goal of that process. And you see how that alchemical guy didn't have like a whole thing of armor down his legs. He had it at his knees. And so when you're able to transmute and transform these things to that level or degree, you know, the dirtiest part of your aura is from the knee down. But when you go through and you transmute these things, that lowest part of the aura, which is tied to the feet, are tied to touching the earth, which is it's a really dense form of prana, and you're pulling energy in from the environment. You're pulling things in you're pulling in elements, you're pulling in, you know, energies and things like that, really lower vibrational energies that kind of sustain the body. When you transform these things in this way, the reason there's like little pieces of like armor on the knees is you are protected from this component. You've moved past this aspect. That's why when you see spiritual teachers, you touch their feet. You don't go and like shake their hand or something. You touch their feet, and then you touch your crown, because their feet is so filled with so much energy that touching the lowest part or the dirtiest part of their aura is very activating to the crown. It's because these energies have been transmuted, they have been transformed. They have the armor on their knees. They are no longer affected by this. They're drawing all the energy down, and light is literally emanating down into the earth, not lower vibrational energy going up the feet and into the body. It's like you have flipped the switch.
Wow.
Does that make
Thanks,
sense?
Greg.
Yeah.
Yes, that was awesome. Okay, very, very
It's a
last-
very complicated situation, and like this is a big piece of it, but it's like several of the classes, started to address this, but we've been kind of gaining momentum for us to start doing some of the deeper inner practices. And so, I mean, that's why the thing with the Sandalphon class and all, the healing technique is we're prepping for much deeper work, and we're going to be doing even things without oils in some of the classes because a lot of you are ready for the next step.
Greg, very quickly, who is that good-looking alchemical dude? Does he have a name?
No, I don't. It's just a drawing. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
But he is single.
And does he have like a
I'm joking.
peacock? Is there a peacock in the
I'd have to look. I get some of the images all mixed up.
Okay, great. Fantastic. Thanks so much for that.
There's an owl. And yes, there is a peacock. Good eye.
I saw a peacock over the weekend, just yesterday. A
Oh,
live-
very nice.
Several of them. Interesting synchronicity.
I mean, we could talk about that image for probably 5 or 6 hours. Like there's so much imagery I mean, that's the thing, like stained glass windows and churches have a bunch of teachings in them. These paintings have a bunch in the Buddhist tradition, the Thangkas, the paintings in the Hindu tradition. You go into mosques and things where they have a bunch of symbols and paintings. All of it has like teachings built into it. And so they refer to it as terma, like outer terma and inner terma. Inner terma would be inner transmissions. Outer terma is the imagery that's buried in the images.
Thanks again, Greg.
You're so welcome.
And then go ahead, Barbara.
Yeah, I think we only have a couple minutes, but yeah, fire away though.
Okay, so you may want to defer this for another time, but it relates to karma. So I can,
I'm sure there's a super short, quick, easy answer.
yeah, you're right.
That's another one that we could just talk about for hours and hours and hours.
So
Yeah.
this came up in a meditation group within the past couple of weeks, but we were taught the phrases karmic storehouse and karmic traces. And the release of these in a certain phase of meditation, but it got us wondering, is there a place in the body or the aura or whatever where these
So like the thing that you're calling karmic traces would be the organs of blood purification.
okay,
You know, the when we do the lungs, the liver, the gallbladder, spleen, kidneys, those are the traces. The storehouse would be the seed in your heart.
okay,
Like how you have a blue pearl here, you have a red pearl in the chest.
thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, that actually literally was a very quick answer.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I've never heard those terms before though. Like that's interesting. How very Buddhist of you.
Are you joshing me?
Well, I know you're Buddhist, so that's why I was just saying like how very Buddhist of you.
Well, so in the teaching, it was, watch what you're releasing. And I don't see anything, but I would feel energy moving. And to me, I don't know if my mind was making something up, but at one point I felt this incredible sensation of energy in a particular way. And it just had me thinking about, well, where do these karmic traces actually get released from?
Yeah.
That was the source of the question.
The issue, like with careful what you're releasing, is if something's done in an unregulated way, or if there's certain practices that are done too much, it's not in the body, but there are certain things that can get like turned on, and then the faucet just unloads. And so that's probably what they're talking about.
This was just a regular meditation sit, but it felt like
They're probably prepping you for a deeper practice though.
a little internal cyclone going on.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
felt stronger, much stronger than usual, and I just didn't know what to do with it.
Usually in practices, they start prepping you for a deeper thing before you get there. Like like when you get into a deeper practice, you're not starting from scratch. They've been prepping you for a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. So sorry, we have to get going for the Astara thing. Feel free to join us. And tomorrow night, we're not doing the stream because we'll be traveling, but next week we're on for Tuesday and Wednesday. All's good. And love talking with you guys. Join us with Astara. We're posting the thing and we're going to be starting here in a minute or two. So